My presentation, I hope, will address your question of why digital radio.
You always were bright.
It is a different facet of amateur radio. It has some unique capabilities that other facets of amateur radio don't have. So here we are. This is, are we going to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Third.
Third.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is DMR for the analog guy. What I did with this presentation is I tried to go through all of the DMR presentations that I found on the internet, went to other clubs, saw other presentations, and I tried to fill in the information that is not in those presentations. So let me start with things that are not going to be covered in this presentation. I'm not going to talk about D-Star, P25, System Fusion. Understand they're all very similar to DMR, okay? I'm not going to tell you how to write a code plug, which is the configuration file for your radio. I'm not going to tell you how to connect your radio to your computer or go into the technical details of how digital communications works. We're not going to talk about color codes or what radio you should buy or what is a channel or a zone. What I am going to do is talk about DMR repeaters and how they work and how you can use them. I'm going to talk about details of how to use DMR, not the techie stuff, not how things are decoded and encoded, but basically how do you get onto a talk group, what do you do when you do get onto a talk group, things like that. We're going to focus on the Brandmeister network simply because that's the one that I am most familiar with. We're also going to have a little bit on TDMA, time division multiple access, or also called time division multiplex access, depending on who you talk to on that. I'm going to tell you what is a talk group, and that is the heart of everything that we're going to talk about tonight. That's going to be where the real meat of everything is. We will also talk about hotspots, and we will also talk about call types. Now, to start off with, I brought 3 radios with me tonight. They're 3 different models. These are to pass around for everybody to look at. These are all same capabilities, but they're 3 different models. And for you to look at and feel and figure out if you like it or don't like it. I think you have the Anytone.
Yeah, do you have that one in there
That
too?
Anytone is one of those. I have the 2017 for you to look at.
Does that mean each one of those has their
Yeah,
own
that's DMR.
coding and?
Each one of these has separate code plugs. They have to be written slightly differently, but they do have basically the same information in them. Okay, what is DMR? Well, DMR stands for Digital Mobile Radio. We've all heard that. We all pretty much know that. It is a European Telecommunications Standard Institute commercial radio standard. Now, the thing to take away from this is it's a commercial radio standard. What that means is it has been adapted for ham radio use. Amateurs, this wasn't intended for amateurs in the first place, so the terms, what things are called and how things work are different because they are intended for commercial radio, not for amateur radio. And as a little sidebar to that, I have a friend who's a fireman who understood all those terms immediately because he's had to do it through the fire service on the P25 radios. Let's start off with DMR repeaters versus analog repeaters. We're all fairly familiar with analog repeaters. Here's a description of an analog repeater. It takes audio frequency. It uses that audio frequency, converts it to something that is modulated on an RF. That RF goes to a repeater. That repeater then sends it back out. Somebody else's radio picks up the RF and converts it back to audio frequency. Very simple repeater system. The difference between DMR and the repeater system we were just talking about is the radio takes audio frequency, converts the audio frequency into digital information, and uses a digital information to modulate the radio frequency signal. And after that, everything still works exactly the same. So instead of audio frequency being on the RF, it's digital that's on the RF. Is DMR simply another linked repeater system? Not exactly. DMR uses the internet. The internet allows a DMR repeater to connect to several other repeaters all at the same time. Now, the important thing to realize here is it's not just the internet, as we all call it. DMR uses what's called a network server. The network server directs the DMR traffic. So when your repeater connects to the network server then sends that information based on what you've asked it to do out to different repeaters. Big question here is, since that's the heart of it all, who provides the network servers? Well, this is the networks. There are several of them. The big ones here in the US are the DMR Mark. DMR Mark is the Motorola Amateur Radio Club. They've probably been into this the longest. They're very popular around here. There's another network server called the Brandmeister server, which is gaining a lot of popularity. There's a Hytera network. There are several others, but I could go on for an hour about how many different networks they are. We are going to talk about the Brandmeister network because all the networks are very similar. They do the same thing, slightly different method of accomplishing the same job. But once you understand one network, you basically understand all the networks. Talk groups. Talk groups are the heart of everything we're going to talk about, and it's the biggest part of this presentation is the talk groups. There's a picture of a talk group, you know, basically how a talk group works. And if you can understand that and you can explain it to me, you don't have to stay for the rest of this. Here's some things to understand about talk groups. Every network has a list of talk groups. That means DMR Mark has one, Brandmeister has one. Everyone has a list of talk groups.